many of you here are a middle child in your family? I see a lot of hands. I too am a victim of the atrocities of being a middle child. Hardly ever getting any attention, yet being the only person your mom calls for little tasks as though all your other siblings are non existent. Yes, I feel your pain. Being a middle child was unfortunately the root to many of my problems. There were times when I was chilling in the living room and someone would ask something from me. And driven by my selflessness, I inevitably said yes every time. However, once you start saying yes, there is no stopping. Hey, Mahir, can you fetch that for me? Hey, Mahir, can you make some tea for me? And the worst of them all, hey, can you hand me the remote? You're 3 feet away from it, get it yourself. You know, they say the work of mothers and angels is never done. The same goes for a middle child. Being born as a middle child means you have to be selfless, and selflessness is defined as having no concern for oneself. I feel like this definition is very true to not just me, but to all of us who are paralyzed by the fear of saying no. In my own experience, I've had to sacrifice my comfort and well being for the sake of others, often disregarding my own, particularly when I bought gifts for others. Actually, a few years ago, I was so consumed by the idea of giving people what they wanted, especially my best friend. I would use 100% of my money just to buy her birthday gifts. And not just birthday gifts on her birthday. No, no. Early birthday gifts before her birthday, and then post birthday gifts after her birthday. Now, it's important to emphasize that I cherish her and consider her very lucky to be showered with my love and care, and she always reciprocates the same generosity whenever she can, which is what strengthened our friendship because we give each other our 100%. So you can see, I'm the kind of person who goes to great lengths to make others happy. I strive to understanding their love languages, their preferences, their wants, their needs, their desires. And some might describe this behavior as people pleasing. A people pleaser is someone who goes above and beyond to ensure others feel good. People pleaser is someone who will not care about themselves and they will only ever strive to make others happy. Selflessness and people pleasing are intertwined, as selflessness is the precondition of people pleasing. And though people pleasing may enhance your reputation as a friend, it comes with its own downsides. Actually, a former friend of mine placed the perfect example, not my best friend. This friend took advantage of my over accommodating nature. They knew that if they asked something from me, I'd oblige without hesitation. And moreover, knowing that I would always say yes, they exploited my eagerness to fulfill their wishes, which often led me to uncomfortable and questionable situations. Being a people pleaser and over accommodating all the time can be an ongoing struggle. This trait doesn't just develop in your adulthood, it often sprouts from childhood experiences. Like, for example, filling that void of attention you never got as a middle child, and thinking that the only way to get any is by fulfilling everyone's wishes. That is an early sign. Children with this mindset have a difficulty grasping the importance of saying no. When children don't learn how to assert themselves and say no, they become vulnerable to traumatic situations that can significantly alter the course of their life. Educating people when and how to say no is paramount. In the region I grew up in, schools rarely incorporated these essential life skills in the curriculum. Now we must recognize that saying no is not a form of rejection, it's a declaration of boundaries. It's an act of self care and communicating that you value your own well being. Some researchers also suggest that one's behavior as a people pleaser can also stem from other factors like low self esteem, a fear of rejection, and a desire to be universally liked. Over the years, I've come to realize how true this is. My low self esteem, an underestimation of my abilities, and a difficulty believing other people's positive comments played a significant role in my tendency towards being a people pleaser. A desire to be liked by everyone accompanied my low self esteem. I never really had many friends in my early years. I would often jump from group to group to avoid drama, especially in middle school. But I struggled to make myself likable. I which then led me to constantly listen to others and cater to their desires, often disregarding my own. While accommodation is generally a good thing, it's essential to draw a clear line between accommodation rooted in common decency and over accommodation associated with people pleasing. Engaging in favors for your friends out of kindness come under common decency, things you should do without hesitation. While on the other hand, over accommodation, where you go to great lengths to make others happy, often at the expense of your own well being, represent extremes. It involves having a hard time saying no. A while back, I began to see the distinction clearly. I started to self reflect. I asked myself three major questions. How often am I exhausting my own resources for others? What does it mean to be my friend? And how far is too far? As I began to question my actions, I was able to identify the problem instantly. When I asked myself how often am I depleting my resources for others, I realized how I was excessively spending my money on my friends and hardly saving any for myself. Also, I saw how I was wasting my time doing other people's work and not using my own time effectively. I also started to question my friendships. Now, questioning your friendships is not wrong. A friendship is only a friendship when both parties give their 100%. With that in mind, I started to analyze the people around me. How are they treating me? How am I treating them? Am I doing too much? And with that, I asked, how far is too far? The funny thing is, this self reflection is actually what gave me the idea for my talk. But alongside the idea, I was able to develop a radar capable of detecting toxic friendships. And I started to set my boundaries. I started to say no when someone asked too much from me. And with my new boundaries, I was seen as more assertive. However, one key thing to note is the heavy burden of guilt that accompanies this change. It was overwhelming. I had lost friends who had been taking advantage of my generosity, and this heavy boulder of guilt took a toll on my mental health. Yet, overcoming this guilt significantly altered the trajectories of my life. With these new boundaries and this newfound assertiveness, I was able to enhance my leadership skills. Instead of going with what the team wanted, even if it was the wrong course of actions, I led my team in the right direction, confidently and effectively. And the most significant transformation occurred in my work. I started to focus on my own work, prioritize my own tasks, instead of wasting my time on others. I started to put my own time and effort for my own personal growth. If so far you can relate to what I'm saying, then you too need to have a reflection with yourself. Ask yourself the big three. One, how often are you exhausting your resources for others? Two, what does it mean to be your friend? And three, how far is too far? Accepting your problem is as challenging as working to solve it. And there can be no progress if you don't even accept there is a problem. The next step is to set your boundaries. Talk with people when you feel you are being used. Set clear cut boundaries when you feel depleted. It takes a great deal of courage to stand up to those close to you. But remember that those who have your best interest at heart will not only affirm you, but congratulate you on your new boundaries. This means having uncomfortable conversations. It's crucial to know where the line between common decency and people pleasing is crossed. Have a reflection with yourself. Ask yourself the big three. But alongside that, stand up to those close to you. Say no to them. Have the courage to say no to them. And with your new boundaries, you'll be able to see a change in yourself and in the way people perceive you. With the right mindset and a commitment to self improvement, change is possible. You need to do good unto yourself before you even consider being selfless with others. Start with small steps, prioritize self care, and remember that sometimes even the selfless need to be selfish.